Alex Mercer stepped out of the small shuttle and onto the landing platform of the academy, taking in the sheer scale of the facility. Towering spires of polished metal stretched into the sky, reflecting the twin suns of the planet. Alien ships hovered silently above, casting shadows across the platform. He adjusted his pack and took a deep breath. Humans had come far, traveling across galaxies, but stepping into an alien training academy was something else entirely. As he walked toward the massive entrance, several pairs of alien eyes followed him. Some were curious, some skeptical, and a few openly amused. None of them had ever seen a human cadet in this facility. Commander Vroth, a towering figure with multiple limbs and blue-scaled skin, watched him from a distance. Beside him, Instructor Kyle, lean and angular with 3 eyes scanning the cadets, murmured, "He won't last a day. Humans are fragile. You'll see." Alex didn't hear them. He was too busy noticing the differences around him. The gravity slightly lighter than Earth's, the hum of energy flowing through the corridors, and the odd shapes of the other cadets. They came in all forms. Some had 6 arms, some could hover, some had sensory organs that could detect heat or magnetic fields, and here he was, a simple human standing among them. The first class began in a room filled with floating holograms. The instructors explained the objectives of the week: survival tests, combat drills, navigation challenges, and complex problem-solving scenarios. Alex listened carefully, his human brain already calculating probabilities, strategies, and potential pitfalls. The aliens around him glanced at him with faint smirks, assuming he would fail. The first test was a basic physical evaluation. Cadets were to climb a vertical energy wall that simulated zero gravity and shifting surfaces. Most aliens adjusted their limbs naturally, leaping and flying with ease. Alex, however, felt the pull of the wall against his hands and feet. He stumbled once, almost falling, but caught himself. He observed the pattern of the energy field, timing his jumps with precision. By the time he reached the top, several alien cadets were already struggling to maintain balance. Some instructors leaned forward, squinting. "Interesting," Kyle muttered. "He adapts. Somehow." The next challenge was a simulated combat scenario. Cadets entered a dome where holographic enemies moved unpredictably. Aliens relied on brute strength or advanced sensory organs, but Alex relied on instinct and observation. He dodged, feinted, and used the environment to his advantage. A floating panel became a temporary shield. A low-energy beam deflected an attack when he spun at the right angle. By the end of the exercise, he was unscathed, while several aliens had sustained minor injuries in the simulation. Vroth's multiple eyes narrowed. "How is he still standing?" he whispered to Kyle. Kyle shook his head. "Humans, I don't understand them. They shouldn't last this long." Alex noticed that some cadets began to pay attention to him, whispering among themselves. He didn't mind. In fact, he started exchanging tips with a few, helping them see the patterns he noticed. It wasn't arrogance. It was natural for him to analyze and share solutions. Some aliens resisted at first, their pride injured, but slowly their results improved. The third day brought the endurance test. Cadets were sent into a simulated desert planet, complete with scorching temperatures, shifting sands, and invisible predators. Aliens relied on their bodies' natural abilities, extra limbs for digging, sensors to detect prey, but many were not prepared for prolonged exertion without overusing their energy reserves. Alex, on the other hand, paced himself, taking calculated rests, hydrating, and using simple survival strategies he had learned from Earth's harsh environments. He moved steadily, completing the course while several aliens collapsed from exhaustion. By the 4th day, whispers among the instructors had become a low murmur of disbelief. "He's still here," Vroth muttered, pacing in the observation room. "No cadet should survive this long." Kyle tilted his head, scanning reports. "His stamina is unprecedented, and his problem-solving skills, they're intuitive, not learned from our manuals. He's thinking outside the parameters we expected." Meanwhile, Alex was unaware of the concern he was causing. He focused on the challenges in front of him. In one exercise, he had to navigate a labyrinth filled with shifting walls and dangerous traps. The other cadets panicked when walls suddenly moved to block their path. Alex observed patterns in the mechanism and predicted movements before they happened. His progress was steady, efficient, and precise. By the time he exited the labyrinth, some alien cadets were still trapped inside, exhausted and frustrated. Even the alien instructors couldn't deny the humans' ingenuity. They had designed these tests to push every species to their limit, yet Alex adapted naturally, with a calmness and creativity that none of the aliens had exhibited before. The fifth day tested teamwork. Cadets were placed in groups to solve complex engineering problems. Alex's group included several aliens known for intelligence but poor cooperation. Most teams argued their communication styles clashing. Alex, however, observed each member's strengths, assigning tasks in a way that maximized efficiency. Slowly, his team began working seamlessly, finishing the task well before other groups. The instructors observed in silence. Froth's multiple limbs twitched with unease. He's not just surviving. He's improving the others around him. Kyle's three eyes scanned the data again. It's remarkable. This human might be teaching them without even realizing it. On the sixth day, Alex faced the ultimate test, a simulation of a planetary disaster. The environment changed unpredictably, sudden storms, unstable terrain, and aggressive robotic wildlife. Many cadets struggled, relying solely on their physical advantages or pre-programmed instincts. Alex, however, combined his observation skills, adaptability, and calm decision-making. He climbed unstable cliffs, navigated collapsing tunnels, and coordinated with fellow cadets to avoid hazards. By the end of the day, he had completed the scenario without a scratch, while most aliens had sustained injuries or failed to complete it. That night, the instructors gathered in private. Froth's voice was low, tense. He's human. How is he still unbroken? We have never seen this level of resilience in any species. Kyle nodded slowly. It's not just resilience. His creativity, his leadership. He's showing qualities we didn't think a human could possess. We might need to rethink our evaluation methods. Alex, unaware of their concern, sat quietly in his room. He reviewed the exercises, noting what worked and what didn't. For him, it was just a challenge, a puzzle to solve, a test to complete. He didn't care about alien reputations or expectations. He only focused on what he could do step by step, day by day. By the seventh day, the final exercise loomed, a combined trial of endurance, intelligence, and adaptability. All cadets had to navigate a simulated planet in crisis, rescue stranded allies, and survive hostile conditions. The aliens expected Alex to finally fail. They braced themselves for what they assumed would be inevitable. As the trial began, Alex moved with calm efficiency. He calculated routes, assessed dangers, and coordinated with other cadets. Where aliens relied on raw strength, Alex relied on timing, planning, and ingenuity. Slowly, his progress became visible to the instructors watching through observation screens. Froth's limbs twitched nervously, and Kyle's three eyes widened. Hour after hour, the simulation pushed cadets to their limits. Some aliens dropped out, exhausted or panicked. Alex pressed on. He climbed cliffs, crossed treacherous chasms, and rescued virtual teammates with precision. When the final alert sounded, he had completed the course flawlessly. The instructors stared at the screens, unable to speak. The human cadet, the one they had expected to fail immediately, had completed every test, excelled under pressure, and outperformed nearly every alien cadet in every category. Finally, Froth spoke, his voice low and filled with disbelief. How is this possible? Kyle shook his head slowly, muttering, "We may have underestimated humans all along." Alex, sitting in the observation area, didn't hear them. He simply smiled to himself, knowing that human adaptability, determination, and ingenuity had carried him through. For him, it had been just another week of challenges, but for the alien officers, it had become a shocking revelation. By the end of the week, whispers filled the academy halls. Cadets talked not about their own success, but about the human who had outlasted them all. He had survived where others faltered, solved problems they couldn't, and remained calm in situations that caused panic. Alex Mercer had done what no one thought possible, and in doing so, he had reminded the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. The instructors retired for the night, still shaken. "Tomorrow," Froth said finally, "we will see if he can truly handle what comes next. But one thing is clear, this human has changed everything." And as the twin suns set over the academy, Alex looked out over the sprawling facility, unaware that his human traits, the very things other species often overlooked, had already started to rewrite the expectations of what a cadet could be. The next morning, the academy buzzed with unusual energy. Cadets whispered excitedly in corridors, and even the instructors moved with tension in their steps. Alex Mercer entered the training hall, calm as ever, his human expression unshaken despite the knowledge that everyone expected him to fail at some point. What they didn't realize was that failure had never been his concern. His focus was simple: assess, adapt, and complete the challenge in front of him. The final trial had been set. Unlike the previous exercises, it was a fully integrated simulation, a collapsing planet with hostile terrain, dangerous creatures, and numerous stranded allies needing rescue. Each cadet was to complete the mission individually, testing endurance, intelligence, decision-making, and leadership under extreme pressure. The alien officers had designed it to push all species beyond limits. No human had ever been scheduled for this trial, and the instructors were nervous beyond measure. The simulation began. Immediately, chaos erupted in the training hall. Holographic storms lashed across the terrain. Chasms opened beneath cadets' feet, and artificial creatures darted unpredictably, attacking without warning. Many alien cadets froze. Some attempted to fight head-on, only to be thrown off balance by the shifting landscape. Alex, however, moved deliberately, observing patterns in the environment, listening to the subtle cues in the terrain, and using every tool available. A cliffside cracked under pressure as one alien cadet tried to leap across a gap. Alex noticed the weak points and calculated a safe route. Instead of relying on strength, he used momentum and timing to cross. Where others panicked, he stayed calm, even taking time to guide a struggling alien cadet safely across. His actions were not only about survival, they were about efficiency and cooperation. The instructor's eyes widened, Vroth's multiple limbs jittered nervously, and Kyle's 3 eyes darted from one screen to another. They had never seen anyone combine physical skill, strategic thinking, and calm leadership in this way. Their training algorithms accounted for strength, speed, intelligence, and sensory abilities, but none had predicted a human cadet could integrate all 3 so effectively. Hour after hour, the simulation intensified. Violent storms became more unpredictable. Holographic predators grew faster and more aggressive, and the terrain continued to shift. Several alien cadets were forced to retreat or fail the exercise, yet Alex pressed on, observing the movements of the environment and the creatures with patience. He used tools creatively, fashioning temporary bridges from debris, diverting energy flows to stabilize dangerous areas, and even predicting predator behavior to avoid unnecessary conflict. During one intense scenario, a massive chasm opened suddenly, separating Alex from a group of stranded cadets. The aliens expected him to fail. They believed a human could not survive such a split-second danger. But Alex's human intuition kicked in. He evaluated the situation in seconds, finding a narrow, barely stable ledge. He leapt, grabbing an unstable support, and then used his momentum to swing across safely, extending his hand to help the others. The stranded cadets were astonished, and even some instructors leaned closer to watch, unable to hide their disbelief. By mid-simulation, whispers spread among cadets. The human was not only surviving, he was thriving. He seemed to anticipate dangers, solve complex problems instantly, and lead others without any formal authority. Some alien cadets began to mimic his strategies, realizing their own training methods were limited. Alex's calm logic and improvisation sparked an unspoken revolution among the participants. Meanwhile, in the observation room, the instructors were in panic. Vroth muttered, "He's surpassing all our predictions. This is impossible. Humans are supposed to be weak compared to our species." Kyle's eyes scanned rapidly across data streams, analyzing performance metrics. "Not weak," he corrected, "unlike anything we have recorded. His resilience, creativity, and adaptability, he is rewriting our understanding of cadet potential." Alex did not notice their concern. He focused entirely on the next obstacle, a crumbling tower with unstable floors and active holographic traps. While aliens tried to brute force their way through, Alex observed the timing of each trap, using slight delays to slip past hazards unnoticed. He rescued 2 cadets trapped by a falling platform, demonstrating both tactical intelligence and empathy, a quality many alien species had rarely mastered in training scenarios. By the final hour, the simulated planet was nearly destroyed. Holographic volcanoes erupted, Giant fissures tore through the ground and electrical storms surged unpredictably. Most cadets had retreated or were incapacitated. Alex pressed forward, unwavering. He coordinated the remaining group, guiding them to safety while also neutralizing hazards using clever solutions rather than strength. When the simulation ended, silence fell over the training hall. The other cadets were exhausted, covered in energy dust from the failed holograms, their bodies trembling. Alex, by contrast, stood calmly, catching his breath, smiling faintly at the other cadets who now looked at him with awe. The instructors could not hide their shock. Vroth's limbs twitched in disbelief. He completed it, he said, voice barely audible. Kyle adjusted the observation panels, scanning data one last time. Not just completed. He exceeded every metric for survival, intelligence, and teamwork. We underestimated him, every step of the way. Alex turned to the instructors, tilting his head curiously. Was there a problem? He asked, his tone casual. Vroth and Kyle exchanged a glance. They had prepared speeches for praise, warnings for failure, but nothing fit this scenario. You did what no cadet has ever done, Vroth said slowly. You completed every exercise, led others, and adapted in ways we cannot explain. How did you manage this? Alex shrugged. I just focus on what's in front of me. I try to stay calm and think. I don't worry about failing unless it actually happens. Kyle nodded slowly, finally speaking aloud what he had been thinking all week. Humans, you are not like any other species. Your limits are extraordinary. You survive where others collapse. You lead instinctively, and most frightening to us. You learn and adapt faster than any algorithm we have ever created. The word frightening hung in the air. It was not meant as insult, it was respect tinged with awe. Humans were unpredictable. Aliens prized predictability and measurable results. Humans, by contrast, combined unpredictability with intelligence and resilience. Alex had shown them something they had never considered, that even the most advanced species could be outmatched by sheer ingenuity and adaptability. Later, in the debriefing room, the other cadets gathered around Alex. Some approached him shyly, others with wide-eyed admiration. How did you do that? Asked one cadet with 4 eyes. Alex smiled gently. I just paid attention, stayed calm, and tried to figure out the best way to solve each problem. That's all. Another cadet, who had initially mocked him, admitted quietly. I thought humans were weak. I was wrong. Vroth and Kyle watched from the doorway, silent but visibly unsettled. For generations, alien instructors had trained cadets assuming the hierarchy of physical strength, natural abilities, and sensory power. Humans had been considered an anomaly, fragile, inconsistent, and inferior. Alex had proven that those assumptions were not only wrong, they were dangerously limited. That evening, the instructors convened privately. We need to rethink everything, Kyle said. Not just our training methods, but how we assess species in general. Humans, they are not bound by the same limits. They are unpredictable, resourceful, and extraordinary. Vroth nodded slowly. And the galaxy underestimates them at its peril. The week had ended, but its impact would last far longer. Alex Mercer had not only survived every challenge, he had reshaped the perception of humans in the academy. Cadets and instructors alike began to whisper the same thought. If a single human cadet could outperform the best-trained aliens in survival, intelligence, and leadership, what might humans achieve in the wider galaxy? Alex didn't think about that. He simply packed his gear, helped a few fellow cadets with minor injuries, and walked toward the shuttle pad. For him, it had been a week of challenges, and he had done his best. But for the alien instructors and the academy itself, it had been a revelation, a reminder that humans were not merely another species to measure. They were something more, something remarkable. As the shuttle lifted off and the twin suns set behind the towering spires of the academy, Vroth muttered quietly to Kyle, We underestimated them for far too long. We have no idea what they're capable of. Kyle nodded, 3 eyes fixed on the departing ship. One thing is certain, he said. From this day forward, humans will no longer be treated as ordinary cadets, and that may be the scariest lesson of all. Back aboard the shuttle, Alex looked out at the shrinking academy, a small smile playing on his lips. He didn't know about the panic he had caused, nor did he care. For him, it was simple. He had faced the challenges, adapted, and completed what others thought impossible. The galaxy had underestimated humans once again, and he had quietly reminded them that human potential was limitless. The stars stretched before him like an open page, full of new challenges, new mysteries, and new adventures. And Alex knew with quiet certainty that humans would meet them head-on, calm, clever, and unstoppable.